in our current times, you are entitled to have something to blame. We're now at a stage where it's not enough to blame someone. You need to have an overarching construct, group, social phenomena that you can blame in addition, right? So you can't just have a crooked politician, you need to have a crooked political establishment. One liberal is insufficient, you need a liberal elite. Now, your coming displeasure, which is highly likely, can therefore be blamed on immigration. Not an immigrant, but immigration. And no matter what they try and do, don't let the politically correct brigade take that away from you. They have taken away your right to discriminate against people you don't like based on white, racial, Christian, heterosexual supremacy. But they cannot take away your right to discriminate against people you don't like for economic reasons. Think of the economy. Think of the consequences of the economy. Right? Don't look at them. Just think about them. You don't want to muddy the waters. So, now, just in case it's not clear, or if there are any visually impaired people in the audience, I am conspicuously, almost in-your-face brown. And like all brown people, I would normally speak for all brown people. But because the reception here is so poor, I'm unable to commune with the brown hive mind. So it may be that much of what I say represents only my opinions, and only my opinion, which is rather unusual, but I think you can get used to that. Okay, so I'm going to go on a limb and say something a bit controversial here. As a species, this hasn't been a terribly good year. 2 days ago, I had a wisdom tooth extracted. And I found myself feeling surprisingly good. And then it occurred to me, this year has been so shit. This feels like a highlight. With something to look forward to. All morning I was thinking, I'm going to have a tooth extracted this afternoon. That feels good. And it's hard not to feel that way. Brexit, Farage, Trump, the ascendancy of white supremacy. Don't get me wrong, I am all for seeing a minority group have its moment in the spotlight. But white supremacists are a minority group in the same way that violent sex offenders are a minority group. Not just because most of their members are clandestine, but they're essentially a minority group in the same way that in 1977, smallpox was a minority virus. Unfortunately, white supremacists never had their 1980. So, I did wonder, is that a bit too much to expect people to know that smallpox was officially declared as eradicated in 1980? Okay, now, it's a bit too late for it to be funny, but at least you're informed. Okay? So, there is one thing that I do have to commend the white supremacists on, which is that what they succeeded in doing was co-opting the politics of equality to place themselves as a legitimate minority group that deserved a place on the table. And thus we had to listen to them, because if we weren't listening to them, we were not taking into account their views. And that, I think, they did superbly well. Right? Now, I would take my hat off to them for that. Except, that is exactly what they want me to do. White supremacists would very much like people like me to take my hat off to them. That's what they expect. And for that reason alone, I won't do it. Okay? Now, the reason I'm doing this is not usual for me. I'm usually a bit of a surrealist comedian, right? And topical material is not my thing. But the fact is that we live in a post-truth world, and we live in a post-satire world. With everything that's happened, where is the place for topical satire? The purpose of satire is to hold up a mirror to point out the absurdity of reality. And when reality is completely absurd, then the purpose of satire is essentially to remind us of what things should be like, which is not terribly funny. And so thus, as a surrealist comedian, I have to sort of, do my bit and step in to fill the gap. Now, when do people normally ask, hey, where's a surrealist comedian when you need one? Okay? The answer is they never do. Nobody ever asks, where's a surrealist comedian? Or we need one. Okay? But I'm going to give this a go. Right? So let's try some topical surrealism. Bashar al-Assad says that his most treasured possession is his coffee mug. Right? It's not a particularly ornate coffee mug, it's not a particularly decorative coffee mug, but it says, world's best dad. You see, the reality is that most of reality is so fucking depressing that you can't make fun of it, so I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to completely give up on this. And what I'm going to do, which I apologize for doing to you, is I'm going to talk about Bono. And I think that is the usual etiquette. If you are going to talk about Bono, you should presage it with an apology. Now, as some of you may know, Bono was awarded Glamour magazine's Woman of the Year award recently. It is, I think, a development that one could consider at best baffling. At best. And Glamour magazine said that they felt that when they were thinking about Women of the Year, it seemed an outdated view to not consider men. Right? That is an idea that's very difficult to wrap your head around. Very, very difficult to wrap your head around. That said, Bono actually, I think, dealt with it fairly gracefully. He said that, he didn't really deserve to be here, there are other people who should have it, but given that men have caused so much of the inequality between the sexes, they needed to be there to lead the way. Right? Now, you see, I don't have to do any work on that at all. I'm just telling the story. I could be reading it out from the newspaper here. It would be slightly less animated, but not so much that you'd notice. And the ceremony actually went fairly well. Amy Poehler actually gave him the award, and she did pull his leg and so. Now, this is probably completely symbolic and completely meaningless. But in a post-truth world, symbols are all we've got left. And nice as Bono was in his acceptance of the award, he did have one other option. He could have just declined and said, well, that's very nice, but I think you might be able to find a couple of women to give this to. Right? Because in a sense, giving Bono Woman of the Year was essentially placing a massive horse turd on the long road to gender equality. Right? Now, it may have been a daintily placed, an elegantly placed, a gently placed horse turd, but it's still a horse turd. So I wrote to the UN to complain. And the UN said, we take your complaint very seriously, we'll send Wonder Woman out. She's our latest ambassador. She's going to be coming to you in her invisible plane, so just keep an eye out for that. I have a feeling that I might have missed that invisible plane. Now that isn't a joke either. The UN did appoint Wonder Woman as an ambassador, right? Because there simply weren't enough non-fictional people around. Right? So it's been a good year, I think, all around. Now, I wanted to say this stuff about Bono because, there is a deep, pressing reason, which is that I find him really annoying. Okay? I saw Bono once. I had to sign documents that stopped me from saying exactly where. But I saw Bono once. And it was like that scene in Sleepless in Seattle, where we looked across, and he looked at me, and I looked at him. And all I could say was, "You fucking wanker! You fucking wanker!" And then I was taken away. Okay, thank you very much. In the interest of combating the post-truth society, I have to confess that a few minutes ago I lied to you. There is one occasion on which people will ask, where is a surrealist comedian when you need one? And that's when their watch is melting. Okay? And when that call goes out, the nearest surrealist comedian will run to that spot and he will shout, "Get out of the nuclear reactor, you fool!" And the crowd will go wild with radiation poisoning. Thank you.